This week, we're discussing A Tale of Ambition. It traces the rise and fall of certain characters during the era of unbridled decadence and depravity of early Hollywood. Because we're talking movies, we're talking Babylon, starring Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, and Diego Calva, written and directed by Damien Chazelle. Man number 3 over there, Kris, I can see your erection.
I like that quote, actually. Oh, God, please forgive us. You sent us the beautiful light and we're squandering it. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? Tonight, we're going to be talking about Damien Chazelle's Babylon, which is a sprawling, over 3-hour, possibly masterpiece, possibly dumpster fire, depending on how you take it. So, Scott, why don't we wade into the muck and mire of this film? Take us away.
So, a little inside baseball here. How do you get Kris excited to do another episode after he bashed my last pick, Creed 3? Well, I had to pick a movie that hit all his sensibilities. Old Hollywood, movie production, orgies, and Brad Pitt.
You son of a bitch! I'm in!
Luckily, I fucking remember this movie came out. So I had to go through 3 hours.
I think you know why I like this movie better than I knew why I like this movie, because I'm pretty sure I'm like, yep. Just general debauchery. I'm a big fan of just general debauchery. So
it's just like check marks. You're just like check marks right there.
Brad Pitt and an orgy and old Hollywood. Okay, I think we're good. We got the perfect movie for Kris. And you're not wrong. I loved it. I saw this in the theater when it came out. And I loved it, the whole film. I mean, I definitely, on its second watching, I could probably give it some criticism.
Because this was in our 2022 episode. Like, this was your best of. Like, this was your movie, right?
Yeah. And it's sad that, I mean, it did.
It is sad that this is your pick for the best movie of 2022.
It's sad that it didn't do better at the Oscars. It did get, some nominations for sound and for set design, which is good. It's one of the few places where I'm surprised that Austin Butler's and Elvis beat it, because the sets in this are phenomenal, right? Just like because you're going through so many periods and the decadence of that period. So you've got mansions that you need as exteriors and all the way out into the desert when you're fighting snakes and all kinds of other crazy shit, right? So, just that opening shot. Well, I guess it's not the opening shot. First, you got to go get the elephant for the opening shot. But once you get into that party, so first off, the camera movement in this film is amazing. So is the editing, actually. They're probably on like a Technicrane or something like that, and some of them are it's an interior location. They may have also been shooting some stuff in the studio. You have almost like a tracking shot where you're following. Let me pull my notes up here. Diego Calva, as he's kind of like walking through the crowd. So it gives you this feeling of being there, right? And the camera moves to the left and it moves to the right, so you can see like the sex and the drugs and stuff like that. And you're just kind of floating around with him as he moves through the party. And this is a perfect example. Often when, especially if you have a lower budget, you try and show a party scene, right? And what it ends up happening is you don't have enough people and you don't have enough set design. So it looks kind of like underfilled. It's kind of like a half-filled room. It just never feels like as claustrophobic or as intense. Well, with this, they've got like fucking extras everywhere. Like doing crazy shit everywhere. Everywhere you could sit there and you could just pause this and look around the room and it would be like, where's Waldo with Coke and tits? You know what I mean? And dicks. So where's the Waldo?
Watching this, I'm just like, man, this is probably like the prequel of Eyes Wide Shut. Like, this is the beginning of that fucking sex group. Right? Like, eventually Tom Cruise is gonna fuck these guys up. But I'm like, this is the beginning. But it's also I don't know why, but this is literally my idea of what Hollywood is like.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah,
like
like this
some
is
of it, I
like,
think it still happens. Like although
well,
old-timey debauchery seems like it
I,
happens more. You know what I mean?
well, I was gonna say, according to Hugh Grant, it doesn't happen anymore, and that's because of cell phones. But before cell phones, this is what happened.
Yeah, he's very sad that people don't fall in love on set or go get drunk.
Yes, but
Not that the workplace has become more professional. That may have something to do with it.
well, if you went, come on, like I will never experience this, but if you went like a decade experiencing this shit, and now it's everybody's like, okay, just sit on your phones until I call you, you would be kind of fucking upset too.
So long!
Yeah, I agree. But they talk about the same thing when you talk to people that grew up in the theater and stuff, where it used to just be like party time, like, you know, the theater in the 70s and even the early 80s, you know, drinking and partying and sex and stuff. And yeah, things have just, A, things became more professional. And B, the cell phone isn't just the being on it, it's the fact that it takes fucking photos and videos.
Yes, 100%. And that's exactly where I got with this comment. But in terms of this film, like I'll let the cat.
What were your thoughts on it?
I'm extremely disappointed in this film.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
like I didn't enjoy it, and I thought it went like literally from one extreme to another, but it had no substance whatsoever.
Mm,
Right?
like cotton candy.
Yeah, like it was just literally like, hey, listen, we're just gonna show tits and ass, sex and drugs, but it gets nowhere.
Sold.
Yeah, like in reality, it gets nowhere, right? Like everybody's technically just doing the same thing over and over again for three fucking hours. And I, luckily I didn't.
So
I
it's
knew,
it's the Wolf of Wall Street.
but even still, like there is so much that they like. There's so many interesting things that got dropped in that were never picked up again. Like I thought the character of like the Sidney Palmer character, the jazz musician,
Yep.
like he out of 3.5 hours, I would say he's probably only in it for what 15,
25
20
minutes
minutes
or something like that.
But his story was like kind of the rags to riches. Like you see, like when you see him like starting out, and he's like literally he doesn't even have a bed. It's a chair, two chairs that he puts together to go to sleep in a room with like a bunch of other fuckers, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, the Diego Calva's character asks him a question. Now he's a big fucking star, right? And then you see him a snippet of like now he's apparently rich because you see his new fucking house, and then you know he doesn't let Hollywood corrupt his morals. So you know he was asked to do something, he just did it because that he was more guilted into doing it, and then he quit, and then you don't see him again till the end, and he's like in this tiny little room.
Yeah, and you are correct. I mean, if you're gonna have a character that is not indulging in these types of things, you need to show more of their life. That and the fact that like I think he's supposed to basically play, I think it's the jazz singer, like one of the first like where because before this, black people were represented by white people in blackface, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a really important turning point in Hollywood history. And you're right, it gets kind of just like brushed over. I mean, there's a lot of criticism just around the fact that we don't really talk about silent film, the silent film era very much in film. So why not kind of do it like they kind of did it dirty? You know what I mean? They didn't really talk about the industry other than the crazy parties. Like it would have been cool to see more of like what it was like to put those films together and like the production side and those actors like Buster Keaton and stuff like that. But it was just basically like, we're going to use the silent era to represent orgies. And then as talkies come on, things are going to become more Puritan, and the people from the silent era are just not going to make it. The end. That's basically the film.
It's like we're gonna take the concept of singing in the rain, but we're gonna just make it rated R. That's pretty much all they did,
Yes.
right? And but that's the thing, it didn't add to it, it didn't enhance it at all. Like we're both in agreement, like you can watch either one of those you can watch the original whatever of the All Quiet on the Western Front, but each one kind of has its own story, but each one enhances the other.
Yes.
Correct? Like you can enjoy
Correct, yeah.
both, but it's like just to, throw tits and ass in there because technically now you can, when as opposed to when Singing in the Rain came out, that would have been a triple X movie or whatever, and it never would have gotten seen. To
So
me,
I agree. I agree with you that like from a historical narrative, this film doesn't work. Like even, and the sad part about that and is that leading up to it, like during the press and stuff like that, Damien Chazelle was talking about like his love for silent film and how much like work he did on it and stuff. And I think that might have been one of the reasons it didn't do well with like critics. Is they said everybody thought there was this like film about the silent film era coming out and it was going to be like well researched and stuff, and instead you basically got a version of like Baz Luhrmann. Like if I did not tell you who the director of this film was, you could easily think that it was Baz Luhrmann. You know what I mean? It's got that aesthetic to it. It's kind of manic. It's like fucking super saturated colors, fucking shit happening all over the place. And so sometimes it's good to not give people really high expectations, lowered expectations, because then you can hit the bar. And I think that is a big challenge, is that people were expecting realism, like much more realism. And what they got was, like I said, cotton candy. Honestly,
yeah, like
I loved it as cotton candy, like not trying to make it anything serious, just watching it as a spectacle, like a big old train wreck. You know what I mean?
yeah, I get what you're saying, but again, they're like putting in the stuff but not enhancing it, to me, is what the detriment of this movie is. Like you have the female director, right? And then
which is his wife, by the way.
that's great, but you still have her in like a female director in early Hollywood, and based on like the scenes you kind of see, not only was she respected, but she was bringing in money for these studios, right? But like her story is also just like a side piece, and which is just like, what I like. It's just like dropped. It's just like, okay, she's gonna be in these scenes with Margot Robbie, and then by the end of it, you just see like I'm assuming it was the assistant director, like who was the guy with the glasses
that's the AD, yeah.
Yeah. Right, like he was the one that just like literally like just like when they tried to go talk, he just took over fucking control of everything, and it just seemed like he had way more power than she did, and she was just sitting there to say
but no, that's actually like he's the AD. That's his job, is to do that. He's not an assistant to the director. He is the assistant director. He is responsible for keeping people on track, right? So all that's why like I watched that and I was like I knew immediately who the assistant director was.
Yeah, but also there's a lot of fucking buried bodies in old Hollywood just based on those extra scenes. And that was one of my favorite scenes, is when they're like after the battle, the guy has like the flag in his thing. They're like, he was an alcoholic. Yeah, it's tragic. It's a disease, right?
He probably
ran into himself, right? And it's just like, you're like, oh, that's how they brushed all this shit off, right?
Well, and then the camera operator dies, like overheats and dies in the little booth there, and they're just like, yeah, so he's dead. Moving on.
Yeah.
So did you like it at all? Or were you just like totally disappointed?
I was more disappointed than anything. It's not one I'll ever like. I'm never gonna revisit this movie ever. Like, and
it's probably the best role I've ever seen Tobey Maguire in. I love him as that character.
But yeah, even like that's the thing. Like he was a producer of this film.
He's an executive producer.
Yeah, but he's still a producer. Like he's getting a producer credit, correct?
He's getting an executive producer credit. Yep.
Okay, so explain the difference.
So he would have had very little to do with the day-to-day workings. He basically was probably like money and connections. He probably had no real authority over like creative or any of that type of stuff. Like he's not like a working producer. It's sort of like how you got to be a producer on a short film because we took your money. And you
Okay,
had
but
no say.
yes, but here's the thing. So if let's say this movie got Oscar,
No, he doesn't
nom
go on stage.
he doesn't.
No, it's
It's
only
just
the producers. Yeah.
but he gets points if
He
for the
might.
money.
It depends. It depends on the contracts. Like, yes, and most likely, like, why else would you executive produce other than sometimes you executive produce something because you want that project to get made. Yeah, like you want to be in a movie, like I don't know, Ska Vega, and so in order to be in that movie needs to get made, and so then you give Kris money to make the movie. Like that's how that works sometimes.
Help me, I'm poor.
It was more like Kris begging, like, I need to get this made. I need help. Here you go. Fuck.
Anyway, I digress. Yes. Anyway, so Tobey Maguire
this movie lost a shit ton of this movie lost money. Like,
oh yeah.
So from what I saw, the estimated budget was 78 million, not counting marketing, and it made 63 in worldwide gross.
Yeah, and I saw somewhere where like because it had a huge like marketing campaign that it may have had to do like 300 million or something like that to break even, or like there was a big number, and it did not do that at all. Like you said, it's like 63 64 million. I mean, maybe it'll make a little bit of money in streaming. I got it on Paramount, so I just paid my subscription.
Same.
And so I don't think it's going to make its even just production budget back.
True. Now, in terms of
hold on, before you move on, do you think it's going to kill his career?
That's literally where I was going to go with it.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
So you have the guy who did Whiplash, which is
awesome. Which is an awesome fucking film.
All right. La La Land.
So I almost hold on. So okay, listen, I know La La Land people fucking jerked off, love that fucking movie. It gave it all these awards and stuff. I thought La La Land was awful. I felt like I was in some type of prison sentence once I sat down in the theater and it started. After the Gap commercial at the beginning style scene ended, I was like, oh my God, how much longer do I have to be here for?
This is hell.
That kind of is there are elements of La La Land in his inability to handle really big production and like the ability to have like a through line through everything. If to me, La La Land felt like a bunch of little like set pieces that didn't really come together. And that is also some of the criticism that has been said about this film. So maybe where Whiplash is a much more contained film. So maybe he just can't handle big production. Anyway, keep going.
But well, in terms of what you're saying with La La Land, a book I finished called Audienceology, the whole beginning of that movie was changed based off audience test screenings. Because originally it was like the traffic jam, you get introduced to the Ryan Gosling characters and the Emma Stone characters, and the first musical number doesn't come in till like 20 minutes into the movie, which it took the audiences aside because they didn't know they were going into an actual musical.
Oh, so they gave him a musical number right away just to be like,
they know exactly you're in a musical, right?
Sometimes you just need to make the movie you're going to make, and then, well, whatever. Listen, he did fantastic at the Oscars with it. I'm one of the few people so many people liked it that like Saturday Night Live actually did a sketch with Asif Ansariya where he's being interrogated by the police because he's the only one who doesn't like La La Land, and he's like, I don't know, I just didn't buy into it.
I'm just wondering, what do you like if you don't like La La Land? Huh? What do you like if you don't like La La Land?
Yeah, like I don't know. Like I think it might, but I also think there's enough back. Like his back catalog is strong enough that he might get one more. All right.
Yeah.
I think it's
First Man didn't do very well either, though, right? So now it's like, okay, so now you've got two. Okay, man, maybe you get three more, like one more shot.
Yes. But that's what I think. It's gonna be one of those. Here's a 10 million, here's 20 million, right? One of these, okay, you make
like
a smaller
Whiplash budget.
one. Yeah. let's see, maybe this is, this is where we kind of want to put you in kind of thing. But who knows, man? Listen, like a lot of people criticize M. Night Shyamalan, and that guy is still fucking going because I think he's one of the smartest businessmen in which like directors that's out right now, because he fucking finances his own films. So in reality, studios don't really lose that much with his movies. That's why he's able, even if it doesn't like hit, he's able to keep on going, right?
What a twist!
Didn't he also work on that one of those Apple TV series? The I can't remember.
The Servant.
The Servant, yeah. Which
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
amazing, man. The aesthetic of it. The show's a bit fucking weird, but it looks very
I haven't
nice.
watched it. My sister loves it.
Yeah?
Sister loves it. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that Babylon has going for it is really strong performances from Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie and Diego Calva, and actually, I'd say the four, right? And Jovan Adepo and Lai Jun Lee, and of course, Tobey Maguire does a great job. There's a bunch of other cameos. Flea, Eric Roberts, Olivia Wilde, Spike Jonze, and then there's a bunch of other just like people from Hollywood that are also in it. So he stacked his cast. So the acting in this is very good. Brad and Margot Robbie, though, do an amazing. Fuck, man. Margot Robbie, like, I don't want to call her a character actor, but she is such a transformative actor. Like, I really love the work that she does. And I think that she's going to continue to develop as a fantastic, like, leading woman. And Brad Pitt, I mean, Brad Pitt basically, like, plays Brad Pitt. But casting him as, like, the typical movie star, I mean, that's what Brad Pitt is, right? So it is perfect casting, right?
Yeah, I'll say, like, in terms of dialogue scenes, the one that I enjoyed the most was his little scene with Gene Smart, who plays the gossip movie thing.
Yes.
After his film bombs, and then they have that little interaction because he feels betrayed by her. And then she goes, do you want to know why they laugh? And then when they're talking about, like, listen, like, your work, 100 years from now, people are going to still come to your work and you're going to live again, right? Like, the trope of Hollywood is you only have a set amount of time, and and then he actually leaves thanking her. Like, that's the thing. It's kind of sad that the character this person's based on, that his character is based on, is actually, most of his films have been destroyed and lost. So actually, none of his silent movies are really available to watch, with the exception of
who was it?
Gene
Okay.
Gilbert, I think.
Okay.
The name. It's the same character that Singing in the Rain is based off of.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Gotcha. So that's why, yeah. So there's more than one comparison to Singing in the Rain, which is funny because then they do Singing in the Rain in the film, right?
Yeah. What did you think of that little snippet that they put in which it was kind of like the history of cinema after, where
I love that. I love that. That was awesome. I would have cut out. So first off, I think this thing, they needed to end on more, like, I didn't really need to see Brad Pitt's funeral. I didn't need to see Diego Calva's character come back. Like, I would have just, like, Margot Robbie's character goes off into the night. Brad Pitt's character does what he does. And then Diego Calva, like, gets out of that room where there's the gunfight. And then I would have just, like, that would have been the end. Maybe, maybe you could, in an end of credit scene, you can have, like, the death of Margot Robbie's character at 34 something. But I would have, first off, it would have saved you, 10 minutes or more. I would have cut that out because that's where it starts to lag out. And then I would have hit it with that history of cinema. That history of cinema was so awesome. Like, I would like to actually just see that as a short, because I think it's so well done.
See, I think in terms of the history of cinema, I do think there's one scene that they missed out on that I didn't see it. No. It's fucking Christopher Reeves as Superman flying into the Earth's, like, into the Earth. Then it would have been a nice fucking callback to Brad Pitt, an interview with the vampire, when he's in the theater and he's like, that's when I can see the sun.
Yes,
right?
Yes, because that's the first time that his character gets to, like, see colorized sunlight, right?
Yes. So it would have been a nice callback to that, because there was a lot of like little tidbits and stuff where, you know, his characters like saying famous lines, but like just fucking them up or changing them up. Like, you know, when he's like, frankly, Scarlet, you're a cunt.
Yeah. Yes. Instead of I don't give a damn. Right. So.
Yeah.
Like I said, aesthetically, this thing looks great. Great, you know, the set design, the music scoring, whatever that like that song that kind of was like that jazz song that's throughout the film. That is an awesome piece of music. The DP is Lingus Sangren. So he worked on a film called Promised Land, which has Matt Damon in it. He did the cinematography for American Hustle. Obviously, La La Land, First Man. He's kind of the director's go-to guy. He also did Battle of the Sexes, which actually looks really the aesthetic is really nice because it's set in the 70s. It's kind of got that grainy film stock. And he did No Time to Die. So like I said, it looks good, definitely well handled from a cinematic perspective. The acting is good. It is a bit long. There is times that it feels a bit slow, and if you're just gonna have like kind of manic crazy shit, then maybe you just lean into the manic crazy shit, and then anything that's not manic and crazy, you just fucking start yanking out. There is some really good moments though, right? Like,
well, like when you start a film with fucking elephant shit, right? Like you can't, like it's hard to like, you know, you have to keep that like fucking shit going. Like literally, you gotta keep
like it doesn't just, the elephant doesn't just take a shit, and the elephant doesn't just take a shit on someone's head. The camera is so close that the camera is getting fake elephant shit all over its lens, and then the elephant just keeps shitting like.
And that was just done to like make the elephant lighter, right? That's why he was throwing the shit onto his asshole, so the elephant could shit to make it lighter, so they can pull it up. That was the thing.
Why didn't they just try and get the elephant to walk up the hill?
Yeah, I didn't get it either, but I figured that would have been easier as well.
I also like Margot Robbie vomiting everywhere.
Oh, that was my favorite. Yeah.
It was like Monty Python-esque vomit. The other thing, though, and I did, it's funny enough, I did a bunch of looking into, there's a lot of cocaine usage. And my understanding of that period, it was like much more morphine and stuff like that. And the conclusion I've come to is, so first off, they said, yes, there was like, you know, all the party drugs were available kind of thing. But I realized it's probably because if you do a bunch of morphine, you're not a very exciting character to watch on a screen. You're kind of just chilling out. It's like opium. And Margot Robbie talked about how they had these like crazy big lines of fake cocaine, which is like vitamin E and stuff like that lined up. And she was like, these are a bit ridiculous in size. And the director talked about how, well, they don't play, the smaller lines don't play well for the camera, which makes a whole lot of sense. And I never thought about it, because often I'll be watching films and you're just like, man, that amount of cocaine they're doing, like that would fucking kill somebody.
I'm about to do something terrible.
But a lot of it is just because, like, if you make them smaller and more like reasonable, it's not going to show. And so I think that like cocaine is a way for the audience to go, oh, these people are being excessive. It allows them to be like super manic because they're all super high all the time. And it shows well on camera. So it was like an artistic and a technical choice at the same time.
There's another, like they did the with Diego's character, where when he would, you know, he would switch back and forth from English to Spanish. Yeah, because Spanish or Mexican?
They speak fucking Spanish in Mexico, my friend.
No,
that's the language,
but it's different.
Yes, the Mexican dialect versus
it's
like Spain, it's
Spain. Like Portuguese and Brazilian Portuguese, right?
That's
like
right.
They're Portuguese, but they're still kind of different.
Well, and then there's kind of Lisbon Portuguese, and then there's what you people speak. So,
what do you mean, you people?
English. I speak English. Or at least I try to. If you heard those podcasts, it doesn't work out as well as. But so when you know you have the setup where you know where they first introduce and he's going back and forth with her, and then he's telling her he loves her, but you see the closed captioning, like you see the translation on the screen in which you can read it, and a bunch of times that happens. That the one thing I was upset about because I thought it would have been a nice juxtaposition as well, is when he goes off on when he finds out that she came to him about the
Oh, you want to know what he's
85,000.
saying?
Oh, I knew what he was saying. I understood it, but it literally should have been the same thing where you had that juxtaposition of him, like, you know, everything was romantic. He's like, I love you, and he's like, mi amor, and all that shit, right? To when he was like, you fucking bitch, you're ruining my life. Like, why the fuck would you come to me, bitch? Like, why wasn't that like?
Yeah. Basically, if you're gonna show the good stuff, you should show like, because that's a big. I mean, they probably did it because him just being like losing his shit in Spanish. If you don't speak Spanish, it just sounds like so crazy. Like he's so angry, right? But I wanted to know because I picked up like just a few of the words, and I'm like, yeah, he is not a happy dude right now.
Yeah. But
so originally Emma Stone was supposed to play the Margot Robbie character, and I'm glad that she was not, because listen, maybe it would have been a breakout role as far as, not like she's a big star, but I mean, like, Margot Robbie's character is fucking trash, right? Like she's a hardcore motherfucker in this film, and I don't know if Emma.
But it was rewritten for Margot Robbie.
Oh,
So
okay.
like the character was completely different when it was supposed to be.
But could you imagine this character? Like this seems to be like that character suits this film to a T. Like she is the rise, basically the rise and fall of a silent film star who, you know, as soon as you hear her talk, you're like, ugh, you probably shouldn't be in the pictures. Same with the actual, and I never even thought about this. She's not very good at learning lines because she never had to learn like dialogue.
Nobody did.
Yeah. So that's
Right.
same with Brad Pitt. Like he doesn't know how to like deliver lines because he's just always been just like a face and his mouth moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, well, they kind of showed it where, you know, it was her debut movie. She was just saying whatever the fuck she wanted to say, right? And then you know
And that's where man number 3 got an erection.
yeah, and then that's, I don't know who, like, what back in the silent movies, what would it be, narrator? Would it be the dictator? Like,
Well, didn't you
whoever
see?
put in the words?
Well, no, didn't you see? Like that's what.
Yeah, but what would that title be? The Miss Fawn or whatever. Lady,
Well, she was the. Didn't they call her like the like title writer? Like she said, like who's writing the titles on this?
Yeah.
So that's that. So basically, it also looked like she was partly like doing like the dialogue for the script at the same time, right? Like the story has a general aesthetic, and then because remember she's like, and they call me Wild Child or whatever. Like she was kind of coming up with the dialogue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like back then in the silent movie, I don't know what the actual title of the person who would do that is. Like if it is title card person. But it's interesting to see because the character that Brad Pitt plays, like in real life, the reason why he didn't succeed so much was his voice did not match his physique. He was
so he didn't have this like really attractive.
No,
voice.
it was high. Yeah, it was high pitched, and that's why people laughed when he actually went to the talkies. Right, when he was saying the scene, like I love you, it was high pitch. It sounded like a child talking to his mom, right? Like I love you with my water.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
So you would not recommend this film?
No, I personally did not enjoy this film. Like it has some
Like good
promise,
stuff. Yeah,
but yeah, to me it was more. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't the story I think that was chosen should have been, right? Like I think there was more that could have happened. Like I'm all down for a downer ending, right? Because not every movie is a happy ending, but it to me it could have been better.
yeah, it's got a 56% from the critics and a 52 from the audience, and it's unfortunate because normally a film like this, like okay, maybe the audience doesn't like it, but the critics really would, or vice versa. And yeah, it kind of universally got panned. Those are not good numbers. With a 3 hour and 6 minute running time too, it's tough, right? Honestly, I think if you go into this, like listen to this podcast and go into it and go, okay, this is just going to be a bit of a feast of the eyes. You're going to see some cool acting. You're going to see some cool set pieces. And now that you can watch it at home, you know, if you've got a bigger TV at home, I think it'll do it justice. It was nice seeing it in the theater because it is such a spectacle. Again, it's like a Bau's film, like a Bau's film. Like it's so fucking sensory overload at points. So I would definitely check it out. It is available on Paramount. So if you get bored or you want to like kind of break it into like sort of like eating that elephant in smaller doses, one bite at a time, I would definitely do it. So especially if you're into film, if you're in the film industry, especially if you enjoy cinematics and acting, check it out. Yeah, and then let us know what you think.
Okay, before we end this, I think this would be good because this movie's about like Hollywood history and everything like that. There's something going around Twitter right now. So it's 8 directors. So I say a name, you tell me what their best movie is.
Okay.
Okay. Cameron.
Aliens.
Okay. Fincher.
Ooh, 7.
Nolan.
Dark Knight.
Hitchcock.
I mean, it's either going to be Psycho or it's going to be
No, it's in your opinion.
Oh, it's in my opinion. It's in my opinion. I honestly, I think Psycho is one of his best films. So yeah.
Okay, Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick. Oh, fuck, that's a tough one because I like a lot of his work. Full Metal Jacket.
Spielberg.
Jaws.
Scorsese.
Fuck. God, because I'm gonna say Goodfellas.
Okay, the last one. And I think you know who it's gonna be.
Yes.
Tarantino.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
See, I would have gone T2 for Cameron. Fincher, I also would have gone with 7. Nolan, Dark Knight. Hitchcock, Vertigo.
So, see, that was my other. It's on the bubble, right? So I'm glad you said that one.
Kubrick would have been The Shining. Spielberg has to be fucking Raiders. Scorsese, Casino.
Again, though, that's the other one, right? I'm like, Goodfellas or.
And then Tarantino would have been Jackie Brown for me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay. Jackie Brown's good. I mean, he didn't write it, so I mean, I guess you could, and it had to be stuff they directed, right? So True Romance probably wouldn't have counted in there either, right?
Right.
Cool. Well, at least we're roughly on the same page.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. I love Death Proof. Death Proof is actually.
That's what I thought you were gonna say, and I was gonna be like,
but it's
the only one.
But you've heard me talk about. I think that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Quentin Tarantino's most accessible film. It encapsulates everything that we have come to know, whether we like it or not, about Quentin Tarantino. You know, the star-studded cast, the like old Hollywood. It's got a great music, you know, supervision, you know, crazy ending, like all that. Like it is very much like if you watched one film and you wanted to know about Quentin Tarantino, I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is that film.
Yeah, I think like now that we're talking about it now, I think that's why Babylon for me didn't resonate as much, right? Like you have a revisionist Hollywood movie already in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it was done so well. And this one was just like, okay, we're gonna kind of do the same thing. We're just gonna go back a couple of decades and we're just gonna amp up the fucking tits and ass.
Yeah,
and
sort of like
drugs.
we don't have it's more show, less go. I would actually, you know, now that you say that, I would like, and it doesn't have to be Quentin, but I'd like someone to do kind of like Babylon, like redo that, not this film specifically, but like a revisionist history or even just the history of that silent era transition, but do it well, right? Do a good, like a really good job from a directorial standpoint. Like I said, I think Babylon is a feast for the eyes. It does have a lot of other like fucking narrative issues. But yeah, basically to the quality of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think that would be a fantastic film. And I think that's a film that would do well with the Academy. You know what I mean?
So wouldn't that just be Singing in the Rain?
Yeah, but you gotta. So what, we can just remake Singing in the Rain. Singing in the Rain did well with the Academy.
That's what I'm saying. Like technically, how wasn't it already done? Where the original actually beat
Oh,
up the
because yes,
remake?
Hollywood never redoes the same thing. It never
like-
redoes the same thing.
It's like which Total Recall is better, Schwarzenegger or Farrell? Which Total
Uh,
Recall?
oh, Schwarzenegger, of course, man.
That was just a hypothetical. I didn't actually want a fucking answer.
All right, man. You got anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you. And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com.
So the advantage, I guess, of having a producer, Scott, is we can say a bunch of bullshit, and then he goes, "No, that's not correct," because he has the time to correct us in real time. So
Be like, listen, if I wanted to be fact checked, I would put this shit on Facebook or something.
that's right.
I
where
just
all
want
the
to be able
experts
to
are.
say. I just want to say whatever the fuck I want to say.
So I guess the Brad Pitt character, his voice actually isn't what killed his career. The way the film shows it, Babylon shows it, is his shitty acting is what killed his career. Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.